The coyotes howled in the distant hills. It was the kind of sound that sent shivers down your spine, echoing through the vastness of the isolated mountain lodge. My heartbeat synced with their eerie calls as I stared out the frosted window, wondering if we were the only living souls for miles. We were a group of strangers, brought together by fate and a relentless snowstorm. The biting cold outside made the lodge seem like a haven, a refuge from the harsh elements that threatened to swallow us whole. Little did we know, the icy claws of isolation were beginning to tighten their grip. The lodge stood as a solitary sentinel against the relentless onslaught of snow. Snowflakes danced in the frigid air, settling on the windows like frozen whispers. The creaking of the aged timbers and the occasional howling wind were our only companions, as we huddled together for warmth and safety. As the temperature dropped, so did our collective sanity. The isolation played tricks on our minds, casting shadows where there were none, and turning ordinary sounds into sinister whispers. Every flicker of the candlelight seemed to illuminate the unease that lingered in the air. We exchanged nervous glances, our breath visible in the icy atmosphere. The mountain lodge, surrounded by snow-covered peaks, had become a cocoon of uncertainty. The silence, once comforting, now felt oppressive, as if the very air held secrets that refused to be spoken. It started with a distant tapping, barely audible over the wind's mournful howls. We dismissed it as the groans of the old lodge settling under the weight of snow. But the tapping persisted, evolving into an erratic rhythm that echoed through the corridors like a haunting melody. Sleep became a luxury we couldn't afford. The isolation played tricks on our minds, blurring the lines between reality and imagination. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways, and whispers brushed against the edges of our consciousness. Were we truly alone in this frozen wilderness? One by one, the shadows became our companions. They danced on the walls, elusive and ever-shifting. Our attempts to dismiss them as mere products of our imagination were futile. The lodge seemed to harbour secrets, and its walls whispered tales of the solitude that had driven others to madness. The days melded into nights, each passing moment marked by an unsettling sense of impending doom. The temperature continued its relentless descent, mirroring the chill that had settled in our hearts. The strangers I had once shared a fleeting camaraderie with now seemed like mere echoes of themselves. The riverbank was bathed in the silvery light of the moon. As we emerged from the lodge, the frozen landscape revealed the extent of our isolation. The mountain peaks loomed above, indifferent witnesses to the unraveling horror that had transpired within the lodge's walls. The snow, once a serene blanket that covered the world in hushed beauty, now bore witness to our shared descent into madness. The frozen shadows that had haunted our days and nights became an inescapable part of our collective memory, etched into the very fabric of the isolated mountain lodge. In the cold light of day, we dispersed, each carrying the weight of our shared nightmare. The mountain lodge, a silent witness to our ordeal, stood as a testament to the chilling power of isolation. The coyotes howled in the distant hills, their cries echoing the lingering emptiness that now receded within use. And so, the isolated mountain lodge remained, a frozen monument to the stories that unfolded within its walls. The snow-covered peaks, once a picturesque backdrop, now held the memories of a group of strangers who sought shelter and found something far more sinister in the icy embrace of isolation. It's funny how isolation can turn a group of strangers into a tangled web of shared secrets. We scattered, returning to our lives, haunted by the frozen shadows that lurked in the corners of our minds. The lodge, a mere dot against the vastness of the mountains, remained an enigma, a place that time seemed to have forgotten. Winter turned to spring, but the memories of that fateful night lingered like a ghostly chill. The news of the isolated mountain lodge and its ominous reputation spread like wildfire, a cautionary tale shared in hushed tones. Some dismissed it as the product of overactive imaginations, while others believed there was something more, something that defied rational explanation. I found myself unable to escape the grip of the story, drawn back to the lodge like a moth to a flame. The once welcoming warmth of the lodge had been replaced by an icy aura, and the whispers of the past seemed to seep through the walls like a mournful wind. The journey back to the isolated mountain lodge was a pilgrimage into the heart of my fears. The landscape, once pristine, now bore the scars of winter's relentless grip. As the lodge came into view, its silhouette against the snow-covered peaks sent a shiver down my spine, a premonition of the chilling tales that awaited. The door creaked open, protesting the passage of time. The air inside was heavy with the weight of memories, the frozen shadows etched into the very structure of the lodge. It was as if the walls held the echoes of our collective descent into madness, whispering tales that refused to be forgotten. The familiar tapping echoed through the halls, a morose melody that resonated with the secrets hidden within. The shadows danced on the walls, their movements synchronized with the beating of my heart. I retraced the steps of that fateful night, each footfall a reminder of the isolation that had once bound us together. The temperature seemed to drop as I ventured deeper into the lodge, the cold seeping into my bones. The rooms that had once offered solace now felt like chambers of the past, their walls closing in with the weight of untold stories. I couldn't escape the feeling that the lodge remembered, that it held the key to the mysteries we had left behind. The isolation had carved its mark on the lodge, transforming it into a monument of despair. The frozen wilderness outside mirrored the chill within, and as I reached the heart of the lodge, the truth unfolded like a macabre tapestry. The shadows, once elusive, now took tangible form, the embodiment of the isolation that had driven us to the brink. I stumbled upon a room, untouched by time, where the whispers were loudest. The frozen shadows congregated, weaving a tale of tragedy and desperation. The walls seemed to breathe with the weight of the stories they held, and the air resonated with the collective sorrow of those who had sought refuge within these walls. The coyotes howled in the distant hills, their mournful cries blending with the haunting symphony of the lodge. I stood in the midst of the frozen shadows, a witness to the stories that had unfolded in the isolation of this mountain retreat. The lodge, once a haven, now stood as a silent witness to the price we paid for seeking shelter from the storm. As I left the isolated mountain lodge, the snow-covered peaks seemed to mock me, their towering presence a reminder of the isolation that lingered in the shadows. The stories, though whispered, echoed through the mountains, a chilling testament to the power of isolation to unravel even the strongest of spirits. The news of my return spread like wildfire, reigniting the legend of the isolated mountain lodge. The frozen shadows that had clung to the lodge now extended their reach, becoming a part of the collective consciousness of those who heard the tale. The coyotes howled in the distant hills, their cries blending with the whispers of a story that refused to be buried. The riverbank was bathed in the silvery light of the moon, casting a spectral glow on the frozen landscape. The isolated mountain lodge, with its tales of isolation and descent into madness, stood as a testament to the darkness that lurks within the human soul when faced with the chilling embrace of solitude. And so the isolated mountain lodge remained, a frozen relic of the past, its doors closed to the curious and the brave alike. The stories, however, continued to circulate, passed down from generation to generation like a chilling inheritance. The coyotes howled in the distant hills, their cries echoing the unanswered questions that lingered in the frozen shadows of that desolate place. As I walked away, the echoes of the isolated mountain lodge faded into the distance. The isolation that had bound us together that fateful night now stretched like an invisible thread, connecting me to the chilling tales of the lodge. The riverbank, bathed in the silvery light of the moon, marked the end of one chapter, but the frozen shadows continued to cast their haunting presence over the isolated mountain, a place where the line between reality and nightmare blurred into eternity.